Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Courtney Ryan, and we're doing something today that we haven't done in quite a while, and that is reacting to some other content here on YouTube. So I actually had a lot of requests for this video. A bunch of you guys sent this to me, so I'm excited to react to it today. And I've actually never reacted to this YouTuber specifically. It's Chris Williamson, and he did a video, an interview with Jordan Peterson, and the video specifically is more than 50% of women are childless at 30. So very interesting. I think it will be nice to get a woman's perspective on this since it's two men talking in the video. I'll give my perspective as someone who wants kids one day. So let's get started.
You see the ONS data that came out a couple of weeks ago that said for the first time ever since records began, 50.1% of women are childless by 30. So there are more women without children at 30 than there are women with children. The first time ever.
Well, so this is... Somebody clipped a part of one of my podcasts, I believe it was, where I was talking about what our society does to 19-year-old women, or 18-year-old women, 19-year-old women. We just lie to them all the time. You know, the first lie is, there's nothing more important than your career, more or less by definition. So that's the first lie. The second lie is, there will be nothing more important to you in your life than your career. So that's the second lie. And then the third lie is there should be nothing more important in your life than your career. So that's the third lie.
So this is really interesting, and I think that it's incredibly true, but I do think this idea of your career is the most important thing that you will ever have in your entire life is something that is shoved down our throats. I know for me, at least it was, you know, don't get married young, don't have kids young, go to school, get what I couldn't have type of thing, which can be positive for so many different reasons. I think it's really important to educate yourself and follow your dreams and your passions, but understand that it's okay if your dreams and your passions don't align with what society necessarily is telling you to do, which nowadays is go to college or get a job or your career is the most important thing to you. Just to give an example here, I love my job. I adore what I do. I love being able to help so many people, but there's still something missing for me. I don't feel completely fulfilled because I know that ultimately I want to be a mom. I want to raise a family. I want to have a family and be married and do all of that as well. So again, that's what I want, but it's okay if that's not what you want. I think it's very important, again, to be very honest with yourself and know yourself enough to know what will make you fulfilled in life, because it would also not be a good thing if you just had kids because you felt like you had to, and then you didn't see yourself as a mom ever, and then you weren't a present mom, or you weren't there for your kids, and maybe you weren't a good mom. So again, understanding this about yourself is incredibly important. So we're kind of moving away from those traditional type of roles, and it's becoming more of a 50-50 thing. You know, women aren't necessarily staying home and taking care of the kids and cooking and cleaning and doing all of that the way that maybe they used to, and it's more 50-50. I think we're also seeing a change in dynamic for men staying at home, and just the dynamics all around are changing. So it's very interesting, but let's keep watching the video.
I worked with high-end lawyers in Toronto for about 10 years. I was part of an organization. We went to law firms, high-end law firms, and said, send us your most productive people, and we'll help them iron out whatever wrinkles there might still be in their life. And the advantage to them is that things will go better for them, and the advantage to you is they'll be even more productive. And there's a good management dictum, which is pay the most attention to your most productive people because they're bringing in the bulk of your revenue disproportionately. And so I worked with men and women who were at the peak of their careers in a very difficult enterprise. And so these were women who were generally very attractive, well put together physically, pretty stable psychologically, extremely conscientious, very, very smart, and high achieving from like junior high all the way through high school, university, law school, onto the top firms, rocketing up through the ranks, full partnership by the time they were 29 or 30. And all the law firms, all the women bailed out, all of them. The law firms couldn't keep them. And I was really, and I talked to the women a lot about this because I was very interested in it, because I knew the law firms were bending themselves over backwards and tying themselves into knots trying to retain these women, because why wouldn't they? You know, just being greedy capitalists is enough. You know, they don't want to lose their high performing women because they're performing at the highest level, and they couldn't keep them. The women wanted to have 9-to-5 jobs. They wanted to bind the job so they could have a life. And that was especially true once they got interested in having a child or had one. And what they really came to was a very interesting realization. So because they were highly conscientious women, they sort of did their duty and worked hard and diligently and didn't pop their head up to ask questions. They were in junior high, they got the best grades. They were in high school, they got the best grades, and so on, all the way through, right till they reached partnership. But that's sort of an apogee, right? You hit partnership in a senior law firm, it's like you're at the top of your profession. Well, then what? Well, so then they looked around and they...
Yeah, I want to stop it here because I think this is really interesting. I think this is a common theme. So again, we're being told that, the career is the most important thing. So you kind of go through your whole life this way. You do really well in school to get into the college that you want to go to. You go to college. When you're done, you get your dream job or whatever it is. You work at that for so long. And then your next thought is, well, what is next? What am I working towards now? Because you've always had something to work towards. And then you get to this point where it's like, okay, I'm either going to do this forever and I'm going to keep rising in the ranks and keep working harder and keep putting in the time at work, or I'm going to, start a family or put my time elsewhere or work a less demanding job. And even going past this here, I think a lot of women work for so long then they realize, I don't want to do this. My whole TikTok is either, girl boss, keep working, you're better than men, or why did we sign up for this? Why did we want to work this much? So it's a very distinct difference between the two, but I think, again, that's why it's so important to know yourself and know what you want. But a lot of people don't realize it until they've done it. And then they can look back and be like, okay, I did this, I'm done with it. I did my due diligence, I put in the work, and now I'm done. So then they'll rely on their husband more to take on that provider role while they stay home with kids. So again, every dynamic looks different. It's very individual what works for you. But I do see this a lot with not only women in my life that I know personally, but also with what I see on social media. So let's keep going.
I thought, here I am with all these hyper competitive men, perfectly willing to work 80 hours a week nonstop to stay at the top. What the hell are they doing? Because that's the real question. What is it that characterizes this small percentage of hyper-competitive men? It's not. You can assume that that's how everyone should be, but first of all, that isn't how everyone is. Or you can flip that and say, well, there's only a small minority of human beings that are willing to do this, to work flat out 8 hours a week. I mean, they're certainly being paid for it. Let's make no mistake about that. But well, what about the rest of life? Well, that's what the women asked. Why am I doing this? And that's a great question. Well, for men, there's a different answer than for women. It's a really different answer. And it isn't like the men are exactly thinking this through. It's more like this is an integral part of male motivation. The more successful you are as a man, the more women like you.
But the problem that you have now is that as women are getting better educated, with more employment, more status, more prestige, they compete themselves out of their ability to find an attractive mate. As women raise up through the dominance hierarchy, and this is...
Competence hierarchy,
sorry.
Okay.
Who's going to tell women the equal access to opportunity that you have recently just acquired? Actually, what that's doing is it's making it more difficult for you to find a mate that you're fundamentally attracted to.
Yeah, well, it does a lot of things. I mean, it does provide women with a lot more opportunity on the economic front. It does decrease their dependency on their mate in relationship to economic security. And educating women, countries that are willing to educate women, that's the best predictor of their future economic success. So if you look at developing countries and you want to find out what about a developing country is most likely to predict the fact that they will continue to thrive economically, it's their attitude towards the education of women. And but a couple more things. Women's educational status predicts their children's educational status, but men's educational status doesn't. So that's also an important multi-generational effect. I released a video. I was going to...
Okay, so I want to start by going back to what Chris said because he's incredibly right. Women are becoming more successful, which is, again, amazing for so many reasons, but they're limiting their pool of men that they're attracted to because even though women are more successful than ever, maybe they're making enough to support not only themselves, but their family, they still tend to look for or be attracted to men who are A, either making just as much as they are, or B, more than they are. I know that it's possible for women to be dating someone who makes less money. I posted a video about hypergamy and some of you left comments that you know women who are dating or married to someone who makes less, but it's incredibly rare. And I could tell just from the comment pool that that was the common theme. But just looking at society as a whole, you know, we used to rely on men solely for that. So obviously you look for someone who has resources that you don't have in order to provide and protect for you, right? And, you know, give you that stability that you literally needed to survive. But now we don't need that anymore necessarily, but our ancestral tendencies kind of still are at play. We still tend to look for someone who is making more than us to give us that extra stability factor and to feel safe and secure, like we are still technically being taken care of and provided for. So I think that's really interesting to think about. Even though we are progressing, we are becoming more successful than ever, we still tend to look for a man who is at our level or above, which as more women become more successful, you're decreasing the pool of men for everyone. And all these successful women are going for the same group of men who are high earners, who are making more, again, or the same as they are. And that was a really interesting point he made also about a mother's education influences the child's education, but a man's doesn't. Let me know why you think that is in the comments down below. I have a couple of theories going on in my head, but would love to hear what you guys think.
With that other story, I released a video, or someone released a clip of me talking about some of the things we just talked about. And it went out on YouTube Shorts, and it's got like 5 million views in a month or something like that. And the comment section is unbelievably vitriolic. Every single comment is vitriolic, and it's all from women. It's like, who is this old white bastard telling us what we should do with our bodies? You know, and I wasn't being judgmental. I was just saying exactly what I said to you, which is, well, I've watched women over the entire course of my life with, I would say, an affectionate eye. You know, I love my sister, I love my wife, I have a daughter, I love my mother. I'm pretty happy about women, all things considered. I don't have an axe to grind in relationship to how they should conduct their lives. I don't even know how they should conduct their lives. I've watched what happens. And I've also watched what happens to women who hit 29 or 30 and then can't conceive. And that is not fate I would wish on anyone. It's awful. And 30% of couples fall into that. 30% of couples have difficulty conceiving. It's a lot. And the probability that you'll have difficulty conceiving increases with age. And so, you know, c'est la vie. But
I want to talk about how he mentioned the comment section. Happy people do not leave comments like that. Have you ever noticed that? Like, in general, happy women, women who are happy with their lives, who are happy with the choices that they make, they're confident in the choices they make, simply don't care about someone's opinion on YouTube enough to leave a comment because they're happy with their choices, they're confident in their decisions and their lives, and the opinion of some random person, well, Jordan Peterson is not a random person, but the opinion of someone on YouTube on a little short video does not affect them. So this is just something to keep in mind when you see people like this on the internet in comment sections. Happy people don't act like that. People who are confident and secure in the choices they've made for their life do not act like that. It's always people who are insecure with the choices that they've made, who are second guessing the choices that they've made, and who feel triggered or threatened by what someone else is saying, leave comments like that. Just throwing that out there.
But it's very interesting to me to see how vitriolic those comments have been and how uniform that is, because usually on my YouTube channel in particular, 95% of the comments are positive. And this is completely the opposite of that. So you brought this up at the beginning. You said 50% of women now at 30?
50.1 are childless by 30.
Yeah, well, you know, that's not good. That's a sign of something profoundly wrong with the entire culture at an extremely deep level.
I don't think that women need to take it as us trying to tell women what they should or shouldn't do, but I think that it would be very fair to say that you need to be an incredibly unique woman to make it to 50 without a family and look back and think, yeah, I did this right. That's not to say that those women aren't out there. They absolutely are. I know some of them.
All right, so that is the end of the interview. Chris and Jordan did a really great job with that. It was set up beautifully as well. Props to you, Chris, if you're watching this. It was a wonderful interview. So now I want to dive in a little bit to the reasons behind and kind of the why behind why over 50% of women are childless at 30, because I think it's for a lot of different reasons. So I found this really interesting article on the topic of why women are childless. And it says, Amanda Scharfman, an ONS statistician, said, "We continue to see a delay in childbearing, with women born in 1990 becoming the first cohort where half of the women remain childless by their 30th birthday. Levels of childlessness by age 30 have been steadily rising since a low of 18% for women born in 1941. Lower levels of fertility in those currently in their 20s indicate that this trend is likely to continue." So as the years go on, this number just continues to increase, and it's for a lot of different reasons. Number one is infertility. This is something that more people than ever are experiencing. I think as time goes on, we're experiencing this more and more. Does this have something to do with the food that we're eating, the products that we're using, our environment in general? I think a lot of factors play into this, but it's a real thing, and it's a scary thing, and something that sadly a lot of women are experiencing, and men even. So this is something to keep in mind. Not having children is not always a choice necessarily. There's a lot of women out there who want kids more than anything and are unable to have them, which again, like Jordan said, is something that I would not wish on anyone. I hope that that is not the case for myself, and something that I wish men and women alike did not have to experience. So very sad. I think that's something important to keep in mind when you're thinking about the percentage of women that don't have children. Sometimes it is not always a choice. So being mindful of that when you're talking about it and asking people can be, something just to keep in mind. Point number 2 that I see talked about a lot is this idea that people don't want to bring a child into the world that we live in. That's just some food for thought to keep in mind. I'm not going to go super in detail on this one because I think there are so many different things that factor into why people think this way. But given the state of the world recently and the last few years, just kind of makes sense. So the next point, which Chris and Jordan talked about, is this career aspect of women wanting to pursue a career. Their career is the most important thing to them, and having kids and missing out on this opportunity with their career is just not in the equation. And again, being honest with yourself, knowing these things about yourself is incredibly important. Some women don't want to be mothers. They don't want to have kids, so they would rather focus on their career instead. As a woman, I think it's important to support women who want different things and, both sides of the equation. Some women want to be the primary caregiver, stay-at-home mom, raise their kids. Other women don't want kids at all and would rather focus on their career. So again, as a woman, I think it's important to support both sides. And there's also this thing happening on TikTok specifically right now, really probably just social media in general, but this idea that your 20s should be your fun years and to not waste those on marriage or having kids, and to have fun in your 20s and then you can settle down later in life when you get to your 30s. And I believe that this influence on social media is a big reason as to why women are deciding to wait, because again, as a society on social media, generally speaking here, we're telling women to wait. Don't rush to have kids like your grandma did, or don't get married when you're 20 like your grandma did or your great grandma. Have fun in your 20s, work on your career, build all of this up and set yourself up for later in life when you decide to have kids. And a lot of women are just deciding to wait. There's also a large group of women who maybe are childless at 30 but still want to have kids at some point. They just aren't necessarily rushing into it or doing it as soon as maybe, our grandparents did. So I also believe that modern dating and hookup culture is supporting this childless by 30 thing. Men and women are not entering serious committed relationships and are just doing this hookup thing. They're just bouncing from one person to the next, quick flings all the time, commitment issues. The modern dating climate and hookup culture as a whole is just perpetuating this idea that your 20s should be your fun years and waiting to have kids is kind of the new normal. So just to wrap it up here, I thought this was a really great interview that I reacted to here today, and really makes you think about, how things have changed over the years and what it's going to be like in the future. What is our society going to be moving towards? I believe that this number is just going to continue to increase. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you liked this video or found it helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to be in the loop for when I release new content. If you haven't already, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Courtney Christine Ryan. I love connecting with all of you guys on there as well. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.